Hello?
Hi, Steve.
Anybody? Hey, Mike.
Hello.
John's here. Karen, Alex, Craig, Steve Dunn. All right.
I want to blame you for setting this meeting up in a way that deprived me of getting to see the Tigers and Royals play on yesterday, because I wanted to be back for this, but we were actually planning to be back on Thursday, drive back from Kansas City Thursday, until I realized that the Tigers were the visiting team. So we saw them Friday night, and they lost all 3 games this weekend anyway. So what can I say?
Yeah, so blame me. I'm missing the Giants. They're on right now.
Well, you scheduled this, so
I know.
blame yourself.
Didn't have a lot of choices.
I'm surprised that you don't have an earphone in listening to that game out of one ear.
No, I wouldn't do that. Let me get some more folks in here. There's John, okay. There's Ralph. Sorry, I didn't get started a little earlier. I had a little trouble logging in. But we're here, so we're underway. Just in case you don't know, this is being recorded. I don't have a choice. SABR set it up that way. So watch the language.
Yes, sir.
There's Steve. Well, I'm missing a few video folks, but what time is it? Let's start. Chuck Schaffner has entered. Admit.
Hi, Steve.
Hey, Ralph's here. Hey, Ralph.
Yep, good.
Turn your video on.
Turning my radio on.
No, video.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I forgot what it was blank there.
No, Ralph, this is a SABR meeting, not a gospel fest.
Sometimes people tell me to turn my TV off. That's
I did get to see 2 major league games in our trip, which was nice, but missed by 1 day getting to go to another chapter SABR meeting. We just could not stay an extra day in Denver. Normally they have their SABR meetings. They have monthly SABR meetings on the third Wednesday of the month. And we would have stayed through that, and I could have gone, but because the Rockies were home on Wednesday, their meeting was moved to Thursday.
Okay, there's John. Okay, let's start. It's a little after 3:30. We've got a fair number of folks here, so I'm going to start the meeting. Let's do a real quick. I'm not sure if we have more than an hour. Probably we do, but just in case we don't, let's make a quick introduction. I'll just call off names as they show up on my screen here. Give us your name and location and who you root for. Mike, you get to go first. Mike Coview.
That's me. I'm in
Yep.
Ames. I'm a lifelong Tigers fan. And as of last week, I've never had a National League favorite, but it might have to be the Rockies, because we had a tremendous experience and they treated us really well at Coors Field last Sunday, a week ago today.
Cool. John Pregler.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm in Dubuque, Iowa here. I naturally growing up in Dubuque, I'm a lifelong New York Mets fan. Recently here, I find myself rooting for the Brewers and the White Sox as well. So tonight should be an interesting game. And the last 2 nights have definitely shown who's a better team there.
Okay, thanks. Craig.
I grew up in Davenport, so my family are all Cubs fan, which is my National League team. But at age 7, I discovered, as Bob Costas would say, he's our guy, Mickey Mantle, and I've been a lifelong Yankees fan as a consequence. So I live in Des Moines now. And a shout out to Steve Dunn, my friend and colleague from church. So good to see you, Steve.
I'm here.
Alex Kleiner, good to see you.
I'm in West Des Moines. I'm a lifelong Astros fan. And not much else to say about that, except I'm here.
Okay. Steve Dunn.
Southeast side of Des Moines. My favorite team, as many of you know, is the Cubs. Unfortunately or fortunately, I know. and the Iowa Cubs too.
John Shorey.
Hello. Yeah, I'm in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Do I need to click on something or can you hear me?
Good.
Okay. I'm in Council Bluffs, Iowa. I'm a Cubs fan and they're currently ahead 5-0. And in the first inning today, Bryant and Rizzo hit back-to-back home runs. That may be the last time we ever hear that,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Thanks, John. Ralph, you're up.
Okay, I live in Des Moines. I'm a Cubs fan. And I'm also a Detroit Tigers fan.
Okay. Chuck Schaffner.
I'm in Polk City, looking over the Tournament Club of Iowa, which I don't play on, nor do I play on any other course for that matter. But I grew up in Ohio, so I've long followed the Cincinnati Reds and the Cleveland soon-to-be Guardians, which is an awful name, but you know, what are you going to do?
Oh, John, you're muted, so you have to unmute yourself first. John Liepa. John,
Still
unmute
muted.
yourself.
Now can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm John Liepa, West Des Moines, lifelong Yankee fan, about the only one around.
All right.
And they managed to find another way to lose this afternoon, giving up
Yeah, I know.
5 runs in the bottom of the 8th. God, they're just, oh, John and I are crying.
Keith, you're up next and you need to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ready to
Okay.
go.
Keith Crewer, I'm in Cedar Rapids. I grew up near St. Louis. I'm a lifelong Cardinal fan. It looks like they're trying to give today's game away yet again to the Reds. So it's been a tough year for Cardinals.
And not last but not least, Karen,
Yes,
your video's not on.
I know. I thought
Okay.
it was.
Yeah,
Here I
There you
am.
go.
I'm from Pittsburgh. So I'm a Pirates fan.
Oh.
Good
And
for you.
that's a hard one to deal with sometimes.
Yes, it
But I
is.
live in North Carolina right now.
And you have an Iowa connection, I remember.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Karen, where in North Carolina?
Pardon?
Where in North Carolina are you?
Leland. Yes, Leland, North Carolina.
My
Okay.
stepdaughters and their families are in North Carolina.
Oh,
All right. I have a rough agenda here. First item on my agenda is John Liepa to tell us about an update on the Field of Dreams game coming up in 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
John Pregler is going to be my bookend on this one, being there in Dubuque, and you'll understand why in a few minutes. But the update, I'm glad you said something, Steve, about not swearing. I think we're all going to want to when you hear about what's happening. But anyway, on the 11th of this month, a longer article appeared in the Butte Telegraph Herald, and it was really the first information that almost any of us have gotten about what's going to happen in Dyersville. Okay, and I emphasize that. But I downloaded the article, and I'm going to go through it. Be patient here, trying to at least hit the highlights of what's going on and then what's not going on. And then I'm going to mention I did send the liaison between Major League Baseball and the Field of Dreams is Dan Evans, who is a SABR member. And I really feel bad, that there wasn't an effort to reach out. We tried, but they didn't respond to include, how many people we have that are members of the Field of Dreams chapter and so on. But and then this morning, John Pregler just emailed me an editorial I wrote to the Dubuque Telegraph Herald. It's entitled, it was something about, I don't have a title here, but it was about, basically lifelong fans being disappointed in what they're doing on the 12th up in Dyersville. And so I did email Dan Evans, and I'll give you his email address. You can all complain to him as well. And then also as a follow-up, my editorial appeared this morning in the Telegraph Herald, and a nice follow-up by John Pregler, who did some research that the game being played on August 12th is not the first major league game in Iowa. Obviously, all the statistics from the Negro Leagues are now accepted as valid stats in terms of comparisons and everything else. And of course, there were Negro League games played in Iowa, a number of them, including one in Des Moines that John details in the 1930s. And then I pointed out to John when we talked on the phone some time ago, the first professional baseball game played in Iowa was between the Keokuk Westerns and the Cincinnati Boston Red Stockings in 1875, that very short-lived season that Keokuk had. And so, they've been bragging this up as being the first major league game being played in Iowa. And if you want to, dig not that deep historically, it's simply not correct. But anyway, the article that appeared on the 11th, it did say, first of all, that they're going to have a 2-day celebration. Originally, when we met 2 years ago, they talked about a 4-day celebration in Dubuque and in Dyersville. They talked about a baseball symposium. Some of you knew this. I drove up there twice to meet with John Pregler, the director of the Mississippi River Museum, and with Roman. And I'm not blaming any of this on Roman because he had little control over this. He's the director of operations for the Go the Distance, the group that's working with Major League Baseball. All the decisions were made by Major League Baseball. And that's why if any of you want to send an email to Dan Evans, that's where it should go. But anyway, one of the things that upset me right away when they cut this thing short to a 2-day celebration, they're bringing in 2 teams of 14-year-olds from Chicago and New York, and obvious reasons, the Yankees and the White Sox. But, I just made the comment, you've got some great high school baseball players in the Dubuque area. What a thrill it would have been for them to be able to play on the Field of Dreams on the day before the August 12th date. And that was, one, and all this was meant to be constructive. And I'm flipping through pages. They mentioned in the article that the mayor of Dyersville hoped that it would be an annual event. And going on a little bit, 2-day celebration. And this is, I'm reading from the article in the paper, but certain elements previously planned are no longer an option due to COVID-19. I think all of us understand that. And they still haven't announced, obviously, what the capacity is going to be, who's going to get tickets, and how expensive they're going to be. And I might add, and John knows this, I've had reserved rooms up there for 2 years. I had them first at the Harbor Inn Resort in Dubuque. And, I canceled there and then rescheduled my rooms for a bed and breakfast called the Hancock House. And the day after this article appeared, I canceled my rooms at the Hancock House because they're not going to let us. The Hancock House said, you don't get any of your money back if you don't let them know a month in advance. And, again, that would have been about $300. Not a big deal. You'd probably pay more for a ticket. But it was the principle that they're trying to lock people into $500 rooms with no chance of canceling. And they still haven't announced who's going to win the tickets. And but anyway, what they're going to have up there is they're going to have an exhibit called the If You Build It. And you can learn about the history of the film and why Dyersville was chosen. John Pregler can tell you that today if you want to hear it. And then, I've been to Galena where part of it was shot and so on. I think all of us know a lot about the film and where it was filmed and why Galena was chosen to be Chisholm, Minnesota, and so on. they're going to have an Experience Iowa zone, which is going to showcase Iowa businesses and organizations. Now, why would a SABR member want to go there for that? Oh, they are going to have a kids zone. So if you bring your, kids up there, spend $500, you'll have a kids zone for them to play in. They're going to have some musical groups and a country western headliner group on the 12th. Let me just flip through here. I apologize. I just underlined this. They do talk that the entire area around the Field of Dreams site will be closed off to anyone except those that are ticket holders or that live in the area. And that they will be showing the Field of Dreams movie at the Dyersville City Square. It'll be a viewing party on LED screens. Well, if you want to sit outside and a hot summer day in Iowa, you can go inside and on your big screen at home, watch the movie again. I mean, I know their intentions are good, but this isn't much reason for hardcore baseball fans to go to Dyersville. And then they spent in this article quite a bit of time telling you how they've had to close and understaff most of the restaurants in Dyersville. And you'd probably have to go back to Dubuque anyway to get a good meal. And they are going to set up a beer tent and so on. But there basically is no baseball symposium, no lectures, no chance mentioned of meeting with players in the 2-day event that's going on there. And if you are lucky enough to get a ticket at whatever cost it is, there may be some chances, but we don't know that yet. August 1st, they're going to do the drawing for the lottery tickets. But anyway, they will have, the Galena, if you want to go over to Galena, they're doing a walking tour of some of the sites that were used in the movie in Galena, but that's not why most people are going up there. And there was one comment, and he might be a perfectly nice gentleman. He's the director of tourism in Dubuque, and his daughter is working with the Field of Dreams in Dyersville. But he said, the major league game is the cherry on top of the cake. Well, I want to correct that. The major league game is the cake. And this other stuff is a tiny, tiny little cherry. And so I think I'm as disappointed as anybody because I was really looking forward to it. We had kind of an ad hoc committee. We made lots of suggestions. I sent copies of flyers of the 2 symposium we had here at the one at West Branch, Iowa, which was really successful about 14 years ago, and the less successful one in Van Meter, across the street from the Bob Feller Museum, just to give them ideas of what they might do. And I would have helped round up players from Iowa at minimal cost. We've got a number of them that live here now, former major league players and so on, or are willing to come back. I'm sure Mike Boddicker would have been willing to come back, Bruce Kim, and they'll have some players there. But again, you just don't know how accessible they'll be. And unless you're a ticket holder, if they'll be accessible at all. So that's kind of a summary. And John, if you want to add a few things there to that original article, and then I can read my editorial.
Sure. No, you nailed most of it. There's been a lot of complaining around, especially the Dubuque area, about just the lack of information. And most of that's because of MLB, period. They waited till after the All-Star game before they released what they were going to do with tickets. No one knew. I think we were all a little surprised that they did the Iowa lottery first. I think part of that may be because people were complaining. And now it looked like the White Sox have the second largest amount of tickets, but they still haven't said how many people are coming, but they keep on mentioning the 8,000 seat capacity. So it's hard to say, but there hasn't been any announcements on COVID requirements. Will masks be required? What if you're vaccinated? So, a lot of that's still up in the air. There's absolutely nothing planned in Dubuque other than the museum does have a Dubuque County baseball display on our history. John and I both have artifacts in that. We do believe that the tickets will be $400 each face value. Whoa. If you do get drawn, you'll have to buy 2 tickets, and that includes 1 parking pass. That's how they're doing it. Only one person can sign up, but even before you saw the Iowa lottery sign up, you saw a lot of sponsors starting to raffle off tickets, but most of those you have to either, pay and join the Iowa Corn Growers Association to be eligible, or the White Sox are doing some drawings, but you have to do a $20 donation to even be in the drawing. there are a pair of tickets that were being auctioned off for the game. Plus, you get to spend the night in the house, the Field of Dreams house. But that last I saw, and this was a week or two ago, was over $15,000. My guess is that will be astronomical. I've heard people say that they anticipate secondhand tickets, if there are a lot of them, going for, $2,000 to $5,000 to $10,000 each. And it's all bleacher seating. So, and like John alluded to, Lansing Road and the roads leading to Lansing will be cut off. So you're not going to get anywhere near the field the entire week, several days leading up to the game. Originally they were going to have minor league games the nights before the major league game. None of that's planned. So they're just missing a grand opportunity here. It's come down to be about sponsors, the money, and Major League Baseball and Fox, and nothing about, the essence of the Field of Dreams or the fans or anything like that. Now that may change in the next few weeks, but I don't anticipate that.
Let me add a little bit here. I want all of you to write down an email address. And this is the liaison between Major League Baseball and Scott Carter from SABR gave me his name. We've never met, but he's the liaison between Major League Baseball and Go the Distance. And the email address is Dan Evans, the number 108 at gmail.com. Dan Evans, number 108 at gmail.com. And let me read the letter I sent to him. It's not that long. And then I'll read the editorial that appeared in this morning's Dubuque Telegraph Herald. But I said today, I haven't received a response from Dan, and I really don't expect to. But if all of you write, one of us might get a response. And so, but here's what I said. I said, as a 35-year SABR member, a lifelong baseball fan, and an Iowa baseball historian, it was extremely disappointing to read in the July 11th Dubuque Telegraph Herald what's being done, proposed and not proposed for the August 8th to 14th week in Dyersville. Why would any baseball fan, or more specifically, one of the 135, and Steve, I just pulled that number out, Field of Dreams SABR chapter members, want to come to a game played by 14 and 15-year-old non-Iowans on August 11th, when we have great competitive high school players / games? Why come to Dyersville as a baseball fan when there's no baseball symposium, displays, lectures, etc.? Only a Taste of Iowa food event, which we can experience at any county fair. We were encouraged 2 years ago when a week celebrating baseball and baseball fans was proposed, and we're told SABR could have a booth to promote SABR and Iowa baseball. Is there anything going on in Dyersville on August 11th and 12th relating to baseball that justifies spending hundreds of dollars to come there? How many ordinary Iowa baseball fans will be able to get or afford a ticket to the August 12th game? After Major League Baseball cut its affiliation with Clinton and Burlington a year ago, a lot of Iowa baseball fans were upset. And if the August 12th game is limited to corporate sponsors and Yankee and White Sox season ticket holders, throw in a few Iowa politicians and deep pocket donors, why would any baseball fan want to come to this event in the future? Why have the organizers of this event ignored Dubuque's rich baseball history going back to the 1860s, including Charlie Comiskey, Hoss Radburn, and a great baseball tradition? Dyersville cannot make this event survive without major involvement by Dubuque. And I know with conversations with baseball enthusiasts there that they are beyond disappointed. You do not want Dubuque baseball fans and SABR members discouraging people from participating in the future, or the Go to Distance has little future in Iowa. 2 years ago, we were overjoyed and excited about promoting the game, SABR, and anything baseball related. Then COVID paused our enthusiasm. Now, a lot of my baseball friends and I are thoroughly discouraged. I still hope some ordinary Iowans / baseball fans are able to attend and see the game. And I just signed to John Liepa, a nearly lifelong baseball and Yankee fan. And then the letter that appeared this morning, they limit you to, I think it's 250 words, John, if I remember right, the Telegraph Herald.
Yes.
But this was in the paper this morning. After reading the article in the Telegraph Herald regarding the August 12th Field of Dreams baseball game, I'm not sure why lifelong baseball fans would spend hundreds of dollars to attend, knowing their odds of getting a ticket to the game are slim to none, and who knows at what exorbitant price. Why attend an event that's basically a taste of Dyersville and a baseball game featuring out-of-state under 14-year-old players instead of Northeast Iowa's best high school players? Why attend there are no baseball exhibits, lectures, or realistic chances to meet the players? Why wasn't there more coordination with Dubuque, which has a rich and storied tradition with baseball going back to the 1860s, including legendary players like Charlie Comiskey? After dropping their major league affiliation with Clinton and Burlington recently, the last thing the Field of Dreams future needs is an event that includes corporate sponsors, season ticket holders from Chicago and New York, a few Iowa politicos, and a very few lucky ordinary Iowa baseball fans. To announce a lottery less than 1 month before the event creates major challenges for the fans, getting rooms, etc., even if you're lucky enough to get a ticket. As a lifelong Yankee and baseball fan, and an Iowa baseball historian, 35-year member of SABR. Let's see, I'm someone who hopes my doubts are disproved and it turns out to be a great success. Well, anyway, so that's a brief kind of update on what John and I have been discussing. And then he wrote a great article that also appeared in the Telegraph Herald that documents that first Negro League game in Des Moines in 1930. And they quote Phil Dixon in there quite a bit. Some of you know Phil. Phil helped start the Negro League Museum in Kansas City. Phil has been to my home. He attended a presentation I did on Major League Baseball in Kansas City. And after I read John's article, I thought, you know who we need to get as a speaker for our SABR chapter? We need to get Phil Dixon to speak to our SABR chapter. And that can be easily arranged. And so anyway, I think John and I would be, willing to open it up to any comments, questions. I think it's too late to really do much. My name is in the lottery, probably like a lot of yours, but I'm not sure I want to pay $400 and stay in John Pregler's house because I canceled my bed and breakfast.
Always welcome.
We can all stay with John Pregler if we get a ticket.
We'll make room.
John, I have a question for you. You said it appears that they're going to be $400 a piece.
Correct.
Is that fairly certain? What's your source there?
There have been several different publications for other drawings that stated the Major League Baseball rules, and every time it's talked about it's a 2-ticket package with a parking ticket, $400 a ticket. I haven't seen that listed related to the Iowa drawing, but for every other drawing, it's been the exact same Major League Baseball rules. So I just assume that it applies.
Wow. I
doubt that they're going to give Iowans a break.
I was hoping to get my name drawn, as many of us are, but not for $400.
Oh, wait a minute, Steve, it's not for 400, it's for 800.
Right.
Oh, I know that, but I meant 400 a game. I paid
400 ticket per person.
Right. I paid 200 for an all-star game, Major League all-star game. And that was list.
It's definitely become about the money and not about the essence of what the Field of Dreams is really supposed to be all about. And I'd just like to make a comment about Dan Evans. I had reached out to Dan when they first announced the game. Dan is a former executive, and I think he was executive general manager or vice general manager of the Chicago White Sox for years. And he was hired to help design or lay out the field similar to the old Comiskey Park. So I reached out to him about Dubuque's history and about Comiskey living 15 years in Dubuque, through most of his professional playing career, which he was unaware of. And, I talked to him about, wanting to have that celebrated, as part of this. And it's been crickets ever since.
Wow.
Which is a shame.
Just wow. Anybody else have comments or?
What can Major League Baseball expect to grow the game if they keep shooting themselves in the foot and do things like this?
Wow. Good statement, Steve. Good question.
That was my point about cutting the affiliation with Burlington and Clinton. That wasn't a very good start. And now to follow up with this.
Yeah. Just crazy. So if there are no questions for the two Johns, let's bring up
more. So how much do you think COVID played into their plans as far as cutting back their plans, or were they going to cut back anyway?
You know, because of our governor, I think very little. I mean, it wasn't hard to really see that what the state would be like, the state of COVID in the state and the Dubuque County area, and what the state's regulations and the local regulations would be going back to March or April. You knew they were fully relaxed by then. They could have done more, I think. But I think there was a lot of trepidation in planning leading up to this year that no one wanted to pull the trigger, and probably and largely because MLB just doesn't give you any information. It's entirely what they want to do. Once they got a contract signed with Go the Distance that owns the field, they automatically gave up all rights and all say, and it's a need to know basis. So Roman, as John has pointed out, until Major League calls him and tells him, hey, I need you to do this or we're going to do that, he's out of the loop as well.
2 years ago, John and I and Roman met, as I said, and he was enthused about the possibilities and getting volunteers to help from SABR and, booths representing different baseball interests and so on, different baseball communities. Cedar Rapids might have had a booth there. Burlington might have had a booth there, just promoting their own baseball. There were a lot of possibilities, and we were really excited. We were excited about some programming done in Dubuque, which can support 35,000 people, if that's what shows up, both in terms of motel space and good restaurants. But they pretty much shut Dubuque out of this whole thing, other than some volunteers from Dubuque that'll be taking, part in it. And Dyersville, there's no way that they can handle 35,000 people. I mean, they're going to have to drive back to Dubuque for lunch.
Well, and actually,
Dyersville has a population of 4,000. So,
an interesting story. Major League Baseball had traveled to Dubuque, do all the hiring to work the game. And so they were actually taking job applications till July 1st. From anybody from anywhere could apply. And they hired for parking, for selling concessions inside the ball game and whatnot. So you have people from all over the country that actually landed a job that are coming to the game from New York State or whatever, because they got hired to handle parking. So they're traveling here just to work out in the parking lot just so they can be part of the game. Surprisingly, Major League Baseball is not charging them for the honor.
So, John, this is supposed to be an annual thing, right? And will someday, this kind of whole thing, the novelty wear off? And to me, it seems like once it gets dark, it's going to be like you're watching a couple major league teams in a minor league ballpark. You're not going to be able to tell. Yeah. You could be at the Field of Dreams or the Field of Nightmares, as far as that goes.
The plans were to develop all kinds of tournaments, into the indefinite future. But I'll just share one story. Someone that you people know, I won't name him, but he was asked to be a major investor and Go the Distance. And he refused because he just said that their game plan down the road was not very defined, and how they're going to generate interest here in Iowa. And he would have been a big time donor to the future of that organization. And he backed out. He didn't ever commit a dime to it once they said that they really didn't have plans beyond the next year. And even then it was kind of based on hope. And I don't think anything they're doing this year is going to improve their chances of getting investors or people to attend.
Yeah, and it's the field's desire to have this be an annual thing. Major League Baseball won't commit to anything. My gut feel is they're doing this strictly from a broadcast perspective. They don't care about the local. They know it's going to play well nationally. It will be a big draw. If it is, then they'll consider it again next year, I'm sure, the year after that, within a recent or near future time frame. But I think it will be based off of the draw. And I think people are going to eat it up. People don't realize the changes that have occurred to the field itself in the last 5 years, or what they're trying to do to monetize it, because that's the big thing. You have a extremely large investment in this field that is not drawing revenue. I mean, the revenue model is a $20 donation to park your car right now, and then $20 to tour the house. Well, most people don't tour the house. You know, once you walk on the field, unless you're going to play catch with someone or whatever, you're only there for about 15 minutes. Everything you need to see is right in front of you. So, you know, they want to build, you know, 20 some ball fields right around the immediate area. Lansing Road starting to become more residential because it's all now in Dyersville city limits when it used to be outside the city limits. So it's going from country farmscape to being more looking like a residential upper end neighborhood, which will continue on. So eventually it's going to be like the Alamo in San Antonio, surrounded by big skyscrapers, and it, you know, it's going to lose its luster and its appeal.
You're going to kill it. Yeah.
That's my fear.
So, John, well, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, Major League Baseball has taken a very heavy-handed approach in the last couple of years, with Burlington and Clinton being two of the examples. I am curious though, John Pregler, what is that field behind you? What is that you're portraying there?
That is Dubuque's old league park from 1895 to 1913. It's where our 3I club played for about a decade, where Red Faber, Hall of Famer, started his professional career.
Does that, I think I saw a picture of it once in that Mississippi River Museum. Does the site where that was, is that right next to near the casino and the hotel?
No, that would be then the ballpark that replaced this one, which would be the 4th Street, or eventually it would become known as Petrakis Park in all of our lifetime. Where the last minor league clubs, the Dubuque Packers, played. But that is close to the museum, and that's where Joe Jackson played when he was in Dubuque for an exhibition game in 1916 with the White Sox.
The outfield of that latter park, doesn't it? The outfield kind of follows that where the railroad tracks are.
Yeah, and home plate faced the shot tower there along the Mississippi River. And then, you know, in the deep summer when we had fish flies, it wouldn't be uncommon to interrupt a game or have difficulties because the thickness of all the fish flies along the Mississippi River there.
Okay.
Wow.
On a more careful note, if any of you want, want a good baseball history tour of Dubuque, contact John Pregler and he'll give you a car tour of Dubuque. Well worth your time. You'll learn a lot more about baseball that way than you will at the Field of Dreams.
John Pregler, you just at least answered a potential trivia question for us. Dubuque had a league park before Cleveland.
John, where was this earlier field behind you? Where was that situated?
In the north end of Dubuque, at 27th and Washington Street. Clower Manufacturing has a large windowless warehouse occupying the grounds right now.
Okay, interesting.
And this replaced actually Baseball Park, which was down a couple blocks down the street at 24th and Washington and Jackson Street, and that's where Charlie Comiskey and Haas Radburn, Tom Loftus, and all those guys played ball in 78, 79, and 1880 here in Dubuque, and won the 79 championship. Comiskey and Radburn started out their professional careers there.
John, what league was that in?
That was the Northwest League, founded by Ted Sullivan of Dubuque and James McKee of Rockford, Illinois.
John, does Dubuque have any current baseball, like a collegiate wood bat team? Or I'm just kind of surprised whenever I go through Dubuque that I don't know of any current baseball entity there other than like high school or something like that.
Yeah, we have some semi-pro teams in the area and in the city that play. but nothing that's highly publicized or widely supported by the community, unfortunately. I think the high school teams, which actually have been doing pretty well this year, draw better and get bigger support here in Dubuque anymore. I think we really lost our opportunity there in 2002, I think it was, to build a stadium and attract a AA team. Of course, they'd probably be gone now anyway, so we probably saved ourselves some heartache building a new stadium, but.
Well,
What double-A league would that have been in? There wasn't one really in the Midwest.
Yeah, that I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking. They were going to move a Yankees AA team from Grand Rapids was what I recollect.
So, really?
Well, Dubuque has, I mean, Dubuque County has the Eastern Iowa, is it Eastern Iowa Hawkeye League and the Prairie League?
Yeah, there's all kinds of semi-pro leagues around the area, and actually they've been Cascade just had their tournament last weekend, and so Balltown I think had their tournament the weekend before. So right now they're just going through, each town's having their tournament, and each other towns going and playing.
I've gone to a couple games at Cascade, which have been fun, but how do you find out what the schedule of those two leagues is? Do you have to be on Facebook or something, or?
Usually that's the best way. I'm trying to think of Manaman's website. I'll have to email it out here.
Okay.
There's a local gentleman and coach here who played some minor league ball that maintains a website and puts everything about the broader tri-state area here in Iowa, Eastern Iowa, all the baseball games and whatnot out there. And that's how I find out about them.
Okay. So I would be interested in that because I've tried to find out just casually a few times without much success.
Yeah.
But it's good.
If I can look it up now.
Okay. New,
I just want to make a comment about that.
okay, Daryl.
Make a comment about that dispute over bringing over building a stadium to bring the AA team into Dubuque. I'm from I grew up in Clayton County and lived in Delaware County in Manchester, so I saw that quite a bit in the news at the time, and as has been, I'm sure, covered, Dubuque is a real hotbed area of baseball interest, and I always thought the location there that they were looking at for the park would have been an ideal place to put a baseball park. But I just think that if somebody's looking for an interesting topic to write about, and I'm not, but if somebody else is, I think digging into the history of that that ballot issue that they had, as I recall, for building the stadium would make for an interesting article. It was, as I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, but as I recall, it was a pretty hotly debated topic. And what I thought it was really interesting about it, having been a politician and in fact having represented part of Dubuque County at one point, was that, as I recall, the abortion issue actually became a factor in that in the community disagreement about whether to build that stadium or not, which is probably going to be the only time that a fight over bringing a baseball team to a town got wrapped up in the abortion issue. But the reason, as I recall, that it got wrapped up in it is that one of the principal owners of the team that was going to be brought to Dubuque was also on the board of Planned Parenthood, and opponents of the park were able to argue, rightly or wrongly, they argued that anything that made this person more money would just increase the amount of money that got donated to Planned Parenthood to help carry out abortions and so on. And at least that's what I recall. Anyway, it'd be an interesting topic for somebody to investigate, a sort of a combination of baseball economics and local politics.
Daryl, I could add a footnote to your comment. Michael Gardner was asked by Dubuque to invest a large amount of money in a potential park in Dubuque. And
Right.
his wife, Barbara, is a longtime supporter of Planned Parenthood.
That's who I was referring
Michael
to.
didn't invest a dime. When they turned that into a political issue, I think Michael would have, he knew the history of Dubuque's, its rich tradition of baseball history. And I think he would have been more than a willing investor, but they turned it into a political thing and he just backed out immediately. And Michael,
Yeah, that
talks
was
about
the
that.
connection that I wasn't going to mention his name, but it was Michael Gartner's connection to the project, or potential connection, that brought the abortion issue into the. And as I recall, and I could be wrong, I often am, but supposedly there were sermons preached from the pulpit about not supporting the ballpark because of its supposed connection with the abortion issue.
Well, it was a county bond issue too, and it was for $6 million. I kept on pushing at the time. We had 2 casinos that were promoting it. I said they needed to just assure or guarantee the $6 million bond, which was going to be spread out over 15 or 20 years anyway, would pay for itself in the first few years, I believe. But no one wanted to step up, and they left it up to the voters. Yeah. And so the county's more Republican, the city's more Democrat, although the county is overall Democrat. So abortion got drug into it, as well as several other local issues that play at the county versus city level. And it got voted down, and it didn't need to happen that way.
It's kind of interesting that Michael Gardner, of course, is now the majority owner of and president of the, not president.
No, not president.
Chair of the board of the Iowa Cubs. And that is absolutely, you almost hear nothing about Michael Gardner in regard to the Iowa Cubs.
Okay. Where did you, Ralph?
Hey,
okay.
There was a suggestion made about a gentleman speaking who was involved in creating the Negro Leagues Museum. That was another stop on our trip, and that is well worth the time if you're anywhere near Kansas City.
Yep. I agree. John, Liepa. I was hoping that Lindsay might be here today. But because he's not, can you give us a real brief update, if there is any, on the website?
I can. And the reason he's not here is the first sentence of the email I got yesterday. He said, "I got your voicemail. My fiance and I are camping with some friends in northern Minnesota." And it'll be through the weekend. I hope it's not as hot as it is here, or he's not having a very good time. Big mosquitoes and 95-degree weather. What could go wrong there? which means I will not be able to attend the virtual SABR meeting on Sunday. You can let the group know that it also done putting up the bios I received from those who sent them in. He hasn't put them all up. I know there's some from Bill Johnson. There are a couple from me that have not been put up. And he's working on Dave Porter's now. If you've checked the website, he did post some in the last week or so. And so he's slowly adding more of them. I think a lot of you know that he's getting married this fall too. And so, combined with planning for that, and I think it's a wedding in Denver or somewhere like that, because he's got family in California and here in Iowa. So, but anyway, so he is working on it. I'm not sure what the group wants to do from there. Is anyone currently working on additional biographies that they will be sending to me? If any of you are, Steve Dunn or John Shorey, I know you guys have both contributed quite a few. But if not, I can send a list of those who still need bios, let people claim them on a first come, first served basis. I'll give you a call the first of next week to touch base on the website. I hope all is going well with the Field of Dreams game. I haven't responded to that yet. And then he said, take care. But he did have a quote here. This is the way he signs off, Lindsay. It's Dr. Lindsay Bell, assistant professor of history, Bemidji State. And then a quote, "What makes baseball special is that it deals openly with human frailty. What other sport acknowledges errors in the box score?" A quote from Fay Vincent Jr. So anyway, Lindsay is here in spirit and camping somewhere in Minnesota, and is asking for more input from those of you that have contributed and those that are interested in contributing more. And John, he probably wants some of your articles for, you know, his website as well, Pregler. So you've been writing some good stuff, including the one today in the Telegraph Herald. So
Thank you, John.
John is, I think Lindsay's original appointment was a visiting appointment. Does he now have, he's going to be there at least another year, right?
he's going to be there at least another year. And I don't know what the circumstances were. The first year was definitely visiting, but I think whether it's an expanded need for another historian, or he's under some kind of, you know, temporary contract, I'm not sure. He likes it up at Bemidji State. And I still remember I asked him what he was teaching, and he said, one of the courses they've asked me to teach is Minnesota history. And he says, I don't know a damn thing about Minnesota history. But apparently he did pretty well his first year, because he got through the course on Minnesota history. And then he teaches US history and a few other courses. But we'll have to check in with him on what his status is going to be, you know, after this next year.
Well, I'm just happy to hear he's going to be there this next year, because that's going to make it a lot easier for some continuity for the website. If he were to have to relocate across the country, that might be a little more difficult.
Well, he's got permanent deep roots in Iowa. His family lives down by Sigourney. He was raised on a farm down there. So regardless of where he ends up, he'll be, you know, part of Iowa and coming back.
John,
we talked about that. So
I do have some money in the treasury for him. And when I talked with him the last time, he said, hold off on it, because he felt he'd been essentially paid more than he had earned at that point. But that money is designated for this project. So, you know, it's just something to keep in mind.
yeah, well, I'm going to get an update when he gets back from his camping trip sometime next week and get more specific. But I know that Bill Johnson has written over, I think, 35 or 40 bios for SABR. And I know not anywhere near that many are on our website yet. And so there are a number of other articles that aren't necessarily bios have been submitted as well. And I want to see where he is with those. So it'll keep growing. And
You've forgotten the details of where the website is housed. You
mean
where the website is hosted?
Well, it's Iowa Baseball History.
Yeah.
One word, that's it. I mean, that's the site. But
no, I get that, but the you know, I've not, for instance, is he paid out of what we paid him? Is he paid for the hosting fees?
I assume he has, because he has.
We need to find out what the circumstances are, because we'll need to have, at some point, we'll probably need to have some way to keep doing that. Otherwise, it'll just disappear.
Yeah, no, I understand. He understands that too. I'll check with him, and maybe the next time we get together, I'll definitely include Lindsay.
By the way, I was going to say, you and I, as both former academics, and would say in related fields, would probably say we've never heard of anybody having to teach something they didn't know anything about beforehand, have we?
Hey, Mike, 40 years ago, I was the Department of History and Political Science. And I think I taught 8 different courses.
Yeah, I know that. Yes, I got that. Steve, was there anything else on the agenda?
Yeah, I have one more item. A couple of folks have asked me if is there a chance that we're going to get together this year? And I thought about that myself 3 or 4 weeks ago. And you know, I've always been a big fan of getting together at the Skybox. So I'd like to propose that we have another Skybox meeting. It's been 3 years at the iCubs game. And we've always done Sundays because they're cheaper on Sundays. There are a couple of Sundays available, August 29th and September 12th. I will talk to Kent? No, that's not right.
Brent.
Anyway, Brent, right?
Brent.
Who said that?
I love September 12th because they play the Med Hens, and that's the Tigers AAA farm team.
Aha, there you go. I'm going to talk to Brent tomorrow and find out if indeed those two dates are available. I suspect they are. So I'm throwing it out for discussion. Who would be interested in resurrecting our almost annual skybox outing at Principal Park? Look at that. Lots of hands. Ralph, are you with us? I think Ralph dozed off a couple times.
Well, you can't see
Okay.
his hand in the picture. Ralph,
Yeah.
you can only see the top of your head from your eyes up.
Right. Well, so it's definitely more than a majority. I will pursue it tomorrow. How about which day? Does anybody have a preference on August 29th or September 12th? We know yours, Mike.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Any
Preference.
preference or comments?
I have
Was
a
that-
preference for, so it was August 29th, and what was the other one?
September 12th.
Okay, I know that I won't be able to make it on the 29th, so.
Okay. So
So
we have two.
you can decide whether that's an argument for having it on the 29th or not having it on the 29th.
So we have 2/12 so far. Not 2/12 the fraction, but 2 for the 12th.
Well, make it
12? 3. Okay. All right. Well, I'll pursue that. And as we have done in the past, I will. My plan is to get reimbursed from SABR for most of it. It's gone up. When I talked to Brent a couple of weeks ago, it's gone from 300 to 375, and that's pretty much expected, I guess. But that's still going to be, if we still get $300 reimbursed, which is what has happened in the past, we can spread $75 around enough, I think, that it'll be a pretty reasonable cost. So thanks for the input, guys. And I will let you know by email, maybe later this week or early next week, where we're going with that.
Hey, I have I can share a trivia question with you. We made contact with a woman in the guest relations office at Coors Field because of mix up with our tickets. And that's why I said initially that the Rockies now are my favorite National League team, because she really took care of us. But she was going to the SABR meeting the next day, and I said, well, I have a question that you might pose to the folks there, given that you're in Denver. And Iowa Cubs fans should know the answer to this question, but the question I had is, what is my favorite all-time name for a baseball team? The Baby Cakes. What does that have to do with Denver?
And you're of course being very sarcastic about favorite all-time.
I cannot imagine being a AAA ball player with the name Baby Cakes on my jersey. That just blows my mind.
Exactly.
By the way, my favorite name is for a team, and I would never root for them, of course, is the Isotopes. I think that's a great name. But
Wasn't the Cedar
So don't leave us
Rapids?
hanging. What's the answer to the question?
Yeah, the answer to the question is the Denver Bears changed their name to the Denver Zephyrs in 1985.
Right.
The Denver Zephyrs were named after the famous train, the Denver Zephyr.
Right.
When they moved to New Orleans in 1993, because the Rockies came to Denver, they kept the name Zephyrs until 2017, at which time they held a contest in New Orleans to choose a name more related to the city of New Orleans, and it turned out to be the Baby Cakes. So the Baby Cakes are the heir to the last AAA team in Denver.
They must have chosen that name during Mardi Gras, all drunk.
It also might have been, I thought it was a local contest, but it also might have been a promotion where maybe some local vendor paid for that. I don't know.
Well, maybe it's the local bakeries got together.
Yeah. Very strange.
Big
And
tradition.
I don't know if I believe that New Orleans is no longer a AAA team. There's I think a AA franchise I don't know what they've done at the AA level, but at before the reorganization, they would have been probably part of the Texas League or maybe the Southern Association, one or the other. I don't know whether the name is still the Baby Cakes or not. But anyway, there's your trivia question.
Good
And the-
question. Good
To me,
question.
the mystifying thing about that is, from what I understand, baby cakes are also called king cakes. They have two different, both names refer to the same type of cake. I would think king cakes would be so much better than baby cakes.
No kidding. I didn't know. And also, I
Yeah.
did also share with her the same thing that I think it was somebody mentioned earlier, John Liepa, that the publicity about the Field of Dreams game being the first major league game in Iowa is inaccurate. That although I wasn't sure because the Keokuk, and I don't remember, you mentioned their nickname, John, and I don't remember.
Western.
Western, their season lasted 13 games.
Right, and they won one of the 13.
They won one of the 13.
Right.
They were supposed to play the Boston Red Stockings 3 games, and after 2 games, the Red Stockings team snuck out of the hotel and took a train back to Chicago, forfeiting the game.
You said, I hope you said train and not plane.
No, train, yeah. For a while, Keokuk was vying to be the capital of Iowa. I mean, it was a bustling little place.
Oh, yeah.
Back
Well,
in
even capital of the
1970.
US.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, what did you say the nickname was?
With the Western.
Westerns.
Westerns. Okay. Nothing very exciting.
They were literally on the Western frontier in 1875.
Oh, yeah.
And that was one of the problems. They couldn't draw, hardly any people to their games.
Right.
There wasn't any money to be made for teams from Chicago or St. Louis by coming to Keokuk. So,
Right.
They had a small population. In fact, when they created the National League, they put in a minimum population requirement, which would have excluded Keokuk. That
Right.
was one of the primary things, is to make sure there would be enough population to support a team.
Ralph, was the National League created the next year?
no.
Yeah. No, that's right. The year Keokuk was, 1875.
Yeah.
There was the Westerns. The next year, basically the National League was 1876.
Right.
That's what I meant. That's what the National League was created the year after. In other words,
Yeah.
Keokuk's experience influenced how the National League, their governance. Interesting.
And
I'd like to just ask the question of, and it may not be one to answer today, if we meet on September 12th, if that does work out, that really leaves time for one more meeting in 2021. So we might be thinking about that.
you mean between now and September 12th?
No.
Oh.
Between September 12th and the end of the year.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool.
Well, I would be glad to reach out to Phil Dixon, see if he might be interested in joining us, either via Zoom or, depending on COVID, obviously. So, but
John, where does he live?
in the Kansas City area.
Oh, okay. So it would have to be, it would make more sense to do it online.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Well, he came up here doing research on J.L. Wilkinson.
Okay.
And I had a couple of pictures of Wilkinson that he hadn't seen for a book that he was working on. So, but it's 2-hour drive. He might want to join us if he's able, but I'll leave it up to him.
Yeah.
Two- 2 hours, I think 3.
Depending where you are in Kansas City.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, we made it back in about 3 hours yesterday. Yeah, I was surprised, by the way, just to throw this out as like, oh, I should have known this. At the game on Friday night, Derek Hill, who among other things is on my rotisserie league team, bought an outfielder for the Tigers when they popped up his hometown, Des Moines, Iowa. I didn't know that. And I haven't gone back and checked it. It surprised me.
who was that?
Derek Hill.
Derek Hill of the,
Derek and then Hill.
no, I meant what team?
Which
Oh,
team?
the Tigers. That's why I thought I should know it, both because he's on my fantasy league team and because he's a Tiger outfielder.
Okay.
So that might be just another major leaguer from Iowa.
That Denver Sabre meeting.
According to Baseball Reference,
Go ahead, Daryl.
I think he's frozen. Oh, no.
No?
What about it, Daryl?
Oh, maybe he is.
I'll shut my camera off. You use less bandwidth. According to baseballreference.com, he's from Elk Grove, California.
Okay, well, that's.
Okay.
Maybe he was just born in Des Moines.
And he went to high school at Elk Grove, California also.
Now, wait a minute. According to Baseball Reference, it does say born in Des Moines.
Oh, okay. I didn't look at the born part.
1995. Okay.
Yeah, you're right. He was born in Des Moines.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
So
Another one for you, John.
yeah.
John's gone.
Oh, he's gone.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's a native Iowan. There are a
Yeah,
lot of
it
guys
says
that have lived in Iowa.
Baseballreference.com says he was born in Des Moines.
Yeah, well, we found things wrong with Baseball Reference a number of times.
Really?
You know, it's at least possible.
Don Carlos Reagan is an Iowan, and they for a long time had him being from Missouri. And that
Oh, and
Baseball
they did
Reference
something weird with Jerry Hairston Jr. too, who was born in Des Moines.
Yeah.
And I've seen references to him being born in the Chicago area, which is not accurate on the assumption that his family lived there, but he was in Des Moines because his father was playing here. He was born here because his father was playing here.
So Mike, you mentioned the Sabre meeting in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a Zoom meeting or was that an in-person meeting?
In person.
Wow.
And we were not able to go. We weren't able to stay long enough to go to it.
Oh, that's too
We had to
bad.
leave. They were going to meet on. They meet on Wednesday normally, but there was a Rockies game on Wednesday afternoon, so they don't meet in conflict with a Rockies afternoon game. And they met Thursday instead.
So
And
was
we
that,
had to leave by then.
is that like a monthly or something?
Yes, they meet
Monthly on Wednesdays.
Yep. On the third Wednesday of the month.
Okay, okay. Yeah, that's right. They have a big dinner on a Wednesday, third Wednesday. That sounds familiar. Okay.
And that's a lunchtime meeting.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's a lunchtime meeting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. That's too bad. That would have been fun.
Yeah.
Another
Do what you can.
former Iowa Cubs employee working for the Rockies now. Shelby Cravens used to be kind of the media go-between for the iCubs for about 5-6 years.
Oh, okay.
Working with the Rockies now.
Hmm.
She's from Utah originally, so I guess she's closer to home now.
Cool. Well, does anybody have anything else? We made it through a little over an hour. Cool. I think we got a fair amount accomplished. I'll work on the 12th of September. Let us know if any, I assume we're all registered for the infamous drawing on the 2nd.
Yep.
I've got a couple tickets if I get them for sale for $1,600 each.
John, yeah, good luck.
Hey, John, are you selling futures in the possibility that you might win?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
we can all stay with Pregler too. So
I think that was, John, I think Pregler, I think that's one of the safest invitations you could ever issue.
Probably.
Hey, but I was dead serious earlier when I said if you're going to Dubuque and want a good baseball tour, contact John Pregler. He'll give you a good baseball tour.
Yeah, I'd be happy. Definitely reach out.
I do have a question that I could probably do a little research and find out, but I assume people here will know. Am I correct that Clinton and Burlington are in independent leagues now or not?
Prospect League, isn't it?
It's called the Wood Bat Prospect League.
Yeah.
They're in, yeah,
Are they both in it?
yeah, they are.
Okay, and the other, so that's similar to the league that, it's a different league, but the league that the Waterloo team is in?
Yes.
Similar
Yeah, it
concept,
is.
yeah.
Although it sounds like it may not be restricted to college players. I think the Waterloo team's league is college players only.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
They certainly advertise themselves as the Wood Bat League for college players. When we were up there, we had a SABR meeting up there at the Waterloo ballpark a couple of years.
Right.
What about now everything else is more or less back to normal at all of the other Iowa teams. I know the Iowa Cubs are, but both Cedar Rapids and Quad City.
Yeah, Cedar Rapids is back to normal. Full capacity.
Maybe we can get back to going to one or two other minor league venues next year.
Let's hope so.
I would assume we're all, or most of us are all fully vaccinated.
Mhm.
And
Oh, yeah.
It would really be great if we could ever get over to Sioux City to see that team.
Yeah, yeah.
I was actually there during the College World Series. I went up one day and saw an Explorers game at Lewis and Clark Field. It's a cute little venue. Yeah.
Are they in the same league with the St. Paul team?
They're in the American Association, like with the Lincoln Salt Dogs and the Sioux Falls Canaries, or it's the same.
Oh.
It's that independent league. I'm not sure that isn't. You're
St.
talking about the
Paul's-
St. Paul Saints. They're now in professional baseball.
AAA.
Yeah, AAA, they play Iowa,
Right.
play Des
Yeah,
Moines.
that's the only team Iowa plays.
Who? Wait a minute.
Omaha and St. Paul, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Well, is there still an independent league team in St. Paul also?
No,
I don't think so.
Does Mike Veck own the AAA team?
we used to,
Yeah.
but not for a while.
Okay. So they
Does
don't
Bill
have
Murray
the,
still have an interest?
I don't know.
Daryl, would be an interesting experiment to see whether the AAA fans in St. Paul have more interest in the game than you described the independent league fans from when you went to their game.
That was Daryl, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Daryl.
was up, I went up, it would have been about 2008 probably. And it was a sellout like all their games were. Fans were having a great time, all kinds of non-baseball foolishness going on the park. They were celebrating National Nurses Week by having their mascot dressed up in a urine specimen cup costume. But nobody seemed to know anything about where the team was in the standings, even though there was only a few games left in the season, and they were fighting for the second half championship, and they were playing the team that they were fighting with for the championship. Nobody around me knew that. And the visiting pitcher had a no-hitter going until there were 2 outs in the 5th inning. When he got a hit, when St. Paul got a hit, I said, well, there goes the no-hitter. Turns out nobody around me knew there was a no-hitter going on. But they're having a great time.
Sounds like the Cubs bullpen.
No, I have a story from Coors Field, from our trip to Coors Field, that it's not the same, but was a little bit disconcerting to me as a real baseball fan. At least I think I am. There was a family sitting in front of us, husband, wife, and their daughter, I think teenage daughter, and the mother and the daughter had replica Charlie Blackmon jerseys on, and the father had a Trevor Story jersey, but he didn't enter into this. But so they went into extra innings. It's 4-4. The Dodgers score a run in the top of the 10th. They got up and left. And here's the kicker. The Rockies won on a 2-run walk-off homer by Charlie Blackmon in the bottom of the 10th inning. And these folks who were Blackman fans enough to be wearing his jersey had walked out. I couldn't understand. I'm used to people leaving to beat the traffic in the 7th or 8th inning in a blowout. I get that. I could not understand why anybody would sit through 9.5 innings and not stay to watch their home team bat in the bottom of the 10th when they're just 1 run down.
Crazy. Yeah. Don't understand it.
Then I never really understand folks who leave in the middle of the game anyway. But, that's another question. Although I've done that occasionally myself when it got very late and I was very tired and had to drive back to Ames.
I would say that maybe they moved there from Los Angeles, but then they wouldn't have been the 10th.
Well, they also wouldn't have had Blackman jerseys on, I don't think. By the way, there were a lot of Dodger fans in Dodger gear at Coors Field. And nowhere near as many as there were Rocky fans. And I think more in that field, I think I saw more people actually wearing replica jerseys than I've ever seen in any other ballpark.
My only trip to a Rockies game was probably it was roughly 20 years ago, but they were playing the Cubs, and the Cubs fans outnumbered the Rockies fans because the Rockies were really bad then, at least 2-1, if not more. It was just, of course, the Cubs fans travel and were everywhere. So, but it's amazing sometimes how visiting teams can, outnumber, especially if you don't have a very good team.
Yeah, the Dodger fans didn't anywhere near outnumber them, but there were enough to be really noticeable.
Keith, a question for you. You said you went to an Explorers game.
Yes.
You were talking about the league. Is that the same league that has the Lincoln Mud Dogs or whatever their nickname is?
Yes, it's the Lincoln Salt Dogs.
Salt Dogs.
I don't know what that's based on, but
The Salt Creek in Lincoln. There's
okay.
Salt River.
That's a beautiful little park too. That's the Haymarket Field they share with the University of Nebraska collegiate baseball team. That's a beautiful park.
Right.
When I go to College World Series, if they're playing, I try to go there on a free night because it's a beautiful place to see a ball game.
Hey,
My
Keith,
wife and I went to a Salt Dogs game a few years ago when we were in Lincoln, and yeah, it's a great park. It's better than probably a lot of single A parks, and unlike the Iowa Cubs park, they even have hot water in the restrooms.
Keith, what's the name? What's the park now name that the College World Series is played in?
TD Ameritrade. TD Ameritrade.
They actually tore down Rosenblatt, didn't they?
Yeah, it's gone. They've got they still got home plate there. They got sort of a mini infield that kids can run on. It's got a sort of a grass and partly rubberized surface for the base paths, and some of the seats are still there. And they still got the old, that curvy linear Rosenblatt sign that they preserved that. So they've got sort of a little mini park to remember Rosenblatt by. It's in the middle of the zoo. It's essentially the zoo parking lot for Henry Dorley's Zoo, but they've got a little area set aside for Rosenblatt in the middle of it.
The foul poles are still there too.
Yes, that's right.
By the way, having gone to both Coors Field and to Kauffman Stadium on this trip, I had not been to Kauffman Stadium since 1993. Even then, and certainly in 75 when I was there previously, it was nice, new, felt very new. It felt really aged now, particularly compared to Coors Field. And the biggest difference of all was the width of the concourses, because there just isn't, at Coors Field, there were more people there, but you didn't feel as crowded.
Mm-hmm.
Both places were nice places to watch a ball game.
Yep. Well, that's it.
Okay.
Don't forget to send an email to Dan Evans.
Okay.
And make sure you mention your SABR members, and you're very disappointed that SABR wasn't given a chance to let people know more about us. I mean, it probably
And
won't
that
reach
was-
them anyway.
John, that was danevans108@gmail.com.
Yeah, that's right.
All small letters.
Yeah, all small letters.
Okay. Will do.
John
All
Eichler,
right. Bye, everybody.
Take
Yes,
care.
Steve.
Okay.
are you a SABR member?
Am I? Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you for organizing this,
Thanks,
Steve.
Steve.
Oh,
Yes,
sure,
thanks.
no problem. That's my job, man.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
Mhm.
Mike, are you still
Yeah.
there?
Yes, I am.
On the, assuming we're gonna have a skybox, I've got two ways we can handle the money. I can either let you do it, or I can do it like I have in the past and just turn over the leftovers to you. So I'm happy either way. Do you have a
That
choice?
might be easier because people are used to hearing from you and so forth. And I'm a little bit afraid that if we mix that up, that we'll send an email and somebody will miss it altogether.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. We'll do that
If
then.
you're willing to do that, I'm.
Oh,
fine with
yeah.
that.
Not at all. I mean, no problem.
Yeah, and I didn't want to say in the group, when I said we had money that is earmarked for Lindsay, we've got 50, a little over $55 of our, that's SABR money, and $200 that's earmarked for Lindsay.
Sure. We have 55. Wow.
Well, that was that's exactly the same amount that you turned over to me
Nothing's changed.
initially. Yeah, I mean, we haven't spent anything. Well, we couldn't spend, I mean, how would we spend money? We can't get together.
And how would we gain money?
Yeah, that's absolutely
We
true.
haven't had an
Hey,
in-person
I'm
meeting.
thinking this guy that was mentioned about the Negro Leagues Museum, maybe that
Yeah.
would make a good program for sometime in the fall.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Have you been
Uh,
there? I saw you shaking. I thought I saw you
Yeah,
nodding your head.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
been there.
One thing though that I should have said was, if you asked them, I asked them, how much time would we need? Well, if you're here for an hour and a half, it'll be fine. Because I
Right,
wanted to
right.
read stuff.
Exactly.
Most of their people who go through will look at the pictures, but not read the detail. And I wanted to read the detail.
Yeah. Well, how long did you spend?
About 2 hours, and we didn't
Yeah.
get. They were closing, and I wasn't quite done, but it was
Yeah.
worthwhile. I
think
did see most of the stuff. I got through most of the exhibits, saw all of the pictures, read most of the narrative that I wanted to.
Yeah,
Probably will go back. I mean, it won't rush to go back next year or anything, but I will want to go back again.
Yeah.
One thing that just absolutely floored me that I did not know was, did they have the video with the columnist from the Daily Worker there when you were there, the Communist Party newspaper?
I don't recall.
Had a long video. He wrote column after column after column about, at a time when, that paper had some standing. Today, I mean, I think it still exists today, but nobody, I don't think even party members read it anymore, if there are any party members left. But at the time, in the 30s, he really pursued, there's a long narrative about persisting, and he was white, but persisting on why are you not, and they kept essentially trying to bombard Landis with questions about, how can you be so blind, basically, as to continue to exclude some of the very best players.
Sure.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. There's
I
a
do not
big
recall-
exhibit about that.
I do not recall a video to that effect. No.
Well, if you go back, look for that.
Yeah. Oh,
In that area.
definitely.
Yeah, I thought that was a history. That was a part of the history I didn't know anything about.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
That was pretty interesting. I'm a little curious. You went to the SABR. You always go to the SABR national meeting, right?
Almost.
Or did you go
yeah.
this year? Did you go this year?
There wasn't one this year.
I thought there was one I thought there
No.
was.
No. Baltimore twice has been postponed.
I thought that, did they have the Pittsburgh meeting?
That was 19, yes.
Okay.
20 was Baltimore, postponed. 21, Baltimore, postponed.
Is 22 going to be in Baltimore?
Yes. Same
That's too far
weekend.
away from me.
Too far away for you?
Yeah, I think if it were anywhere even on the periphery of the Midwest, we'd try to go. And I think Henrietta would probably go with me. But I want to be able to drive because I'm happy to fly. I mean, it doesn't bother me to fly, but I like to be able to see what you see when you drive somewhere.
Yeah.
And I like to be able to take side trips and that sort of thing. So,
Yeah.
and we're retired, so why not?
Oh, yeah,
Take the
sure.
extra time. So
You know,
this trip to Colorado was almost 2 weeks. It didn't take us 2 weeks, but we, spent the time in Denver. We spent the time in Kansas City. We, did a variety of other things and so forth. And that's what I want to do. I don't want to rush back and forth. So
right. What'd you think of the ballpark? The outfield is immense.
what at Coors Field?
Immense. Yes.
Yeah, it is. But I assume the dimensions are partly an answer to the ball carrying further in light air in that altitude.
Sure.
And so forth. By the way, this walk-off home run by Blackman was a surprise, and I had not followed him very closely this year. He was one of my players for a long time on my fantasy team, but he isn't now. This was only his 5th home run of the year, and he hadn't hit one since June 3rd.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is his average still up there? He's always been a 300 plus hitter.
And 30 home runs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was interesting. I didn't think the game was a 6-5 game, which isn't unusual particularly.
Might be even considered low scoring for Coors Field.
Yeah, I didn't get the impression that the pitchers didn't seem particularly cautious to me. I mean, maybe you just can't pitch that way. I mean, you've got to do your normal pitching, I guess, and hope that the ball stays in the park. But I'll tell you what, we had I mentioned the problem with the tickets. We stopped in Denver on the wedding we went to was in Crested Butte, which is in the Rockies, and it's about 4 hours southeast of Denver. So on Wednesday early afternoon, we stopped in Denver, went to the box office, got our tickets and a parking pass, and got in the car. Sunday, we had a terrible time finding hotel rooms in Denver and finally ended up at a hotel in Boulder, which isn't, it was only 25 minutes from the ballpark, so that was fine. And we opened the glove compartment up, take the tickets out, and Henrietta says, "These are for Tuesday night instead of Sunday."
Oh,
so I called the Rockies office and they put me in touch with this woman named Susie. In the name notwithstanding, she's probably only 10 years younger than we are. Boy, did she take care of us.